sweet as my revenge.
The wars in this film, both martial and political, and indeed Caius Marcius's own internal struggles, make for quite weighty material. What was it about Coriolanus that inspired you to embrace it for your directing debut?
Well, I think it was its provocative and confrontational nature as a play. I think Shakespeare's kind of asking all kinds of questions about our allegiances in politics, in life, and indeed to the protagonists in the story, and I dramatically find that really exciting.
I'll fight with none but thee, for I do hate thee. We hate alike.
It's a kind of expose of what I feel is the perennial dysfunction of all the tribes that make up humankind, whether they're different nations, different classes, different political parties, and indeed the warring tribes within us. You talked about the internal conflict of, but dramatically he doesn't allow us to rest anywhere comfortably. I think we're not sure what we should make of Coriolanus or his allegiances or the people or Phidias. And there's a kind of primitive energy in it as a piece, a sort of jagged, primitive, tragic. It's a tragedy, so it has this a remorseless drive to the demise of Coriolanus, which I find very moving, very exciting, and very potent.
Drop back further, drop back further. Action!
And the scorn Coriolanus shows for his people looks quite exhausting. Was it tough playing the man and directing at the same time?
Yeah, of course it's hard to do that, hard to take on both, but I wanted to play it again, and I felt I had, with John Logan, I had a strong sense of what this film would be, and there was no one else who was coming forward to persuade me that they should do it. So I took it on. It was a bit mad, but I had this sort of bit between my teeth, and I couldn't let go of it.
Your last brilliant villain was Voldemort. Do you think Coriolanus is a monster or just misunderstood?
I think he has the potential to be a monster in terms of what he would do as a leader. I mean, I think he should not be allowed anywhere near political office. But fundamentally, he is, as the story says, he is a boy in a man's body. I mean, he's not been allowed to fully flower as a human being.
He that retires, I'll take him for a Volsky and he shall feel mine edge! Go!
He's been brought up with a very strict, martial, samurai-like code of behaviour and of ethic. So he's someone who's been prepared to die for his country since he was a young man. And he's insanely brave, sort of almost psychopathic in his courage. He shouldn't. But he has his own kind of honour, his own kind of integrity, his own kind of refusing to be other than he is. Which, of course, we can't in everyday life. We have to go into sort of negotiations and present bits of ourselves in order to facilitate how we get on in the society we are in. He sort of refuses that, so he's extremely isolated and alone. In that way, I can have sympathy for him, even while my rational head says I would disagree with his politics or his inability to negotiate.
Coriolanus literally spits contempt at his people. Do you see that state of society against the backdrop of political and martial conflict resonates even more today than it did when the play was set? Do you see parallels with the Arab Spring, the London riots?
But I think even before we had all these uprisings and the things you've just mentioned, I think they're always... This endless cycle of power goes on and on forever and ever. We're kind of trapped in it. I mean, I think Phidias's lines, when he contemplates in the film the sort of face of Coriolanus, which is one fire drives out one fire, one nail, rights by rights falter, strengths by strengths do fail. So one strength, one power base is replaced by the next, It goes on forever. It'll continue to go on. I think it's quite, in essence, Shakespeare's presenting us with a very bleak picture of what we are. There isn't much flame of hope offered. I'm afraid I like it for that reason too.
Baz Luhrmann used frenetic headlines and spliced in multimedia for his adaptation of Romeo and Juliet, and you've used the same texturing just as brilliantly, clearly making this 17th century prose palatable for a modern day audience was paramount for you.
Well, some of it's prose, some of it's in verse, but it was definitely, we made a decision. You know, sure, the question is, are you going to take on a Shakespeare play, Shakespeare story? Are you going to use his dialogue? I think Shakespeare's dialogue is still electric. I think there's a misconception about it, which is that it's Old English, which is partly true. I also think Shakespeare's actually experimenting with the English language in ways that I find very exciting. I think the perception of Shakespeare is tricky. I think he suffers a lot from the way he's taught, that, you know, Shakespeare was never... The plays weren't written to be taught. A playwright writing today writes for his play to be performed in the theatre, to be experienced only as theatre. No playwright, I believe, sits down imagining my play will be taught or lectured about in schools and universities. So any adaptation of Shakespeare suffers from everyone thinking, oh my God, that was so boring, the Shakespeare I did at school. And unless they've been lucky enough to experience good Shakespeare productions, they always will come with this dread. But luckily I don't carry that dread, and I believe that the good productions and accessible productions can actually excite the ear. And you can come away and go, wow, that was amazing what they just said.
What's the matter? You dissentious rogues that, rubbing the poor itch of your opinion, make yourselves scabs.
We have ever your good word.
He that will give good words to thee will flatter beneath abhorring. What would you have, you curs, that like nor peace nor war? The one affrights you, the other makes you proud. He that trusts to you where he should find you lions, finds you hares, where foxes, geese.
I mean, I love, unapologetically, I love language. I love language in a dramatic context. I think it's thrilling. I think I couldn't really have changed it. I think I could see that there were bits of text that were so knotty and dense, they just wouldn't, I mean, I couldn't understand them. I played it on stage, and it's an assault course of trying to communicate very tricky stuff. It's thrilling when you analyse what it's about, but in the moment of it being spoken and received, it's kind of impossible. And there are passages in this where we take that risk a bit, but I felt they're so fundamental to the story that I think, and also there's going to be an audience that wants to delight in what Shakespeare's doing with the language, and so we stuck with the original.
Ralph Fiennes, thank you very much.
Thank you.